Chad Hasty Show, News Talk, 95.1 FM and 790 AM. KFYO. Joining us on the phones right now, U.S. Senator Ted Cruz, who announced, of course, his reelection bid, and he's crisscrossing the state. And Senator Cruz, welcome back to the show. Glad to have you on.
Chad, good morning. It's great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about the campaign that I guess officially got going this week. You've been crisscrossing the state, I know. What are you hearing from voters when you're talking to them?
Well, we're seeing tremendous energy, tremendous enthusiasm. We're in the middle of a 12-city barnstorming tour across the state, and everywhere we go, I think people are really they're energized to defend Texas. They're energized to keep our state red, to defend our values, and that's important because I think Texans recognize that we've got a lot of folks on the far left that are trying to turn Texas blue, that are angry and upset about the president, and are putting millions of dollars into trying to change the state of Texas, and we've got to defend the values and principles that have kept Texas free and made Texas such an extraordinary place.
When you look at your opponent, your opponent obviously Democrat running against you, he's had some very harsh words about you and about the president. We'll get to some of those here in just a little bit. But what do voters need to know about your opponent? I think that in order for a Democrat right now to win in Texas, a couple of things have to happen. One is low voter turnout on the Republican side, but two, for a Democrat to win, they have to win over some moderates and some independents. What do people need to know about your opponent?
Well, I'll tell you, he's not really trying to win moderates or independents. You know, in the past, you used to have Democrats running statewide that would pretend to go to the center. Congressman Beto O'Rourke is running hard left. He is running same sort of campaign you'd see a Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren run. He's for higher taxes. He's for higher regulations. He's for Obamacare. He's for open borders. Not only does he not want to build a wall, but he advocates tearing down the walls we have and the fences we have. He thinks we have too much border security. He supports sanctuary cities, and he's campaigning aggressively in support of gun control and against the Second Amendment. In fact, a few weeks ago, he tweeted out to the world how proud he was that he has an F rating from the NRA, not a D minus, not a D, an F. And you know, Chad, I retweeted that. I said, well, elections are about choices, and if you want a liberal who wants to take your guns, well, the Democrats have given you that choice. But that's not who Texas is. Texans are strong. Texans are independent. Texans are free. Texans love our freedom. Texans are tough. And we want and deserve strong elected leaders who are going to defend freedom, who are going to defend low taxes, low regulations, more jobs, and are going to stand up for the Constitution and Bill of Rights. That's what I've done in the Senate, and that's what I hope to and intend to continue doing.
Senator, I want to ask you about something that the congressman said yesterday about you and President Trump. He was interviewed by the Texas Tribune's Evan Smith, and O'Rourke said that, quote, they, meaning you and President Trump, want you to be afraid of Mexicans when they call them rapists and criminals and say only a wall will keep them out. Your reaction?
Well, you know, have you noticed that far-left liberals, they really look down on anyone who disagrees with them, and they demonstrate so often contempt and even hate. Those kind of insults are hateful. And it's reminiscent of, you remember a couple of weeks ago, Hillary Clinton was in India, and she was asked about why she lost, and she said, well, there are just a whole lot of people in red states that don't want to see black people succeed. They don't want to see they don't want to see women succeed. And in their view, anyone who believes we should secure the borders, anyone who believes we should end sanctuary cities, in their view, we must be racist. We must just hate Mexicans. And I'll say it's particularly ironic for Congressman O'Rourke to say that, given that I am the son of a Cuban immigrant who came to America with nothing and couldn't speak English, who washed dishes making 50 cents an hour. We are a land of immigrants, but we can welcome immigrants who come here legally, who follow the rules, who do it the right way, and we can also believe in rule of law. And I will say it's unfortunate that Congressman O'Rourke has taken to insulting the millions of Texans who want to secure our borders and are concerned about illegal immigration.
Senator, you voted against the last omnibus that was passed. Let's talk about your future. If you do win re-election, obviously there are a lot of people who are predicting doom and gloom for the House side of things. On the Senate, they're not predicting as much doom and gloom as far as losing the Senate. How can we get conservatism, and what can you do to get real conservative legislation actually through the U.S. Senate?
Well, we've seen some major victories last year. It was not clear for much of the year if we'd get much of anything accomplished. But when the year came to a close, I think it was remarkable how much we delivered on. You'll recall, beginning of 2017, I laid out 4 big priorities: tax reform, regulatory reform, Obamacare, and judges. If we could deliver on those 4, it'd have a big, big impact on the state of Texas. It would help the people of Texas. As the year came to a close, it was astonishing just how much we delivered. Tax reform, we saw the biggest tax cut in history, lowering taxes on small businesses, on job producers. We're seeing more jobs in Texas and higher wages because of it, lowering taxes on hard-working families. It's making it easier for Texans to provide for their kids. Not only that, on regulatory reform, we've seen just about every federal agency lifting job-killing regulations. That's benefiting Texas enormously. Obamacare is the biggest unfinished commitment that we have, but it's worth noting that as a part of tax reform, we did repeal the Obamacare individual mandate. I led the fight to make that happen. Nobody thought we could get it done, but we were able to bring together all 52 Republicans and deliver. And finally, on judges, we've seen tremendous success confirming strong constitutionalist judges to the federal court. I think we need to keep delivering. And I'm spending my time in the Senate working to bring Republicans together to get at least 50 Republicans in the Senate on the same page to yes. And if we keep doing that, if we keep delivering on our promises, it'll continue to deliver real results for the state of Texas.
What does the future argument, future debate over health care look like? You know, we haven't heard a lot of Obamacare and health care talk lately. What does that future look like maybe after the election season?
Well, as you know, we made 2 hard runs at it last year, and both times we came up excruciatingly short, just 1 vote short in the Senate. I was very, very involved in both of those efforts to bring Republicans together and repeal Obamacare, and we got almost all the way there. We got 47, 48, 49 Republicans, but we missed the last couple to get them on board. I still think there's a path to get it done. It may have to wait till the election till we get, I hope, 3, 4, 5 more Republicans. But I'm continuing to press to do more on Obamacare this year, that there are a lot of common sense reforms that can reduce premiums, that can expand competition, that can expand consumer choice, and make a difference for Texans right now. And so what I'm urging my colleagues is, listen, we got majorities in both houses. Let's find common ground and deliver real results on Obamacare, and that remains something that I'm pushing front and center.
Visiting with U.S. Senator Ted Cruz here on the Chad Hasty Show, News Talk 95.1 FM, 790 AM, KFYO. The president has often spoken about or tweeted about the nuclear option in the Senate, that 60-vote threshold. Where do you come down on that? Is it time to eliminate that 60-vote threshold?
I believe it is. I agree with the president on that. I think what we're seeing is unprecedented Democratic obstruction. They're filibustering virtually every piece of legislation, virtually every nominee, and it's simply the demand they're getting from their far-left base is obstruct, fight, resist, and when one party abuses a procedural tool, the only proper response is to respond and use the procedural tools we have to limit their abuse.
Is there an appetite, do you think, in the Senate among Republicans to go there? It seems like Mitch McConnell and others are worried about pulling that trigger because of what may happen in the future when Democrats take control of the Senate.
I think that's right. I would say, yes, there's an appetite, but right now we don't have the votes.
Yeah.
4 or 5 years ago, there weren't 3 votes in the Senate for using the nuclear option to end the filibuster. Actually, 4 or 5 years ago, I didn't support it either because I think historically over the decades, it's proven to be a conservative tool. It slows down the speed of government. That generally is a good thing. You look in modern times, there have been 3 Democratic supermajorities. The first gave us the New Deal. The second gave us the Great Society. The third gave us Obamacare and Dodd-Frank. And so if we get rid of the filibuster, every Democratic majority is a supermajority. So if you had asked me 4 or 5 years ago, I would have said, no, we shouldn't end it. I've changed my mind on that. And the reason I've changed my mind is, number one, the Democratic abuse we're seeing now is just unprecedented. But number two, I no longer believe it would bind the Democrats. If they ever get a majority again, I think they'll use the nuclear option. They'll end it. And it doesn't make any sense to me for it to be a one-way constraint, for it only to bind Republicans and for Democrats not to be bound by it. But that being said, we don't have the votes in the Republican conference. My guess is we have about half the Republicans, maybe about 25 or so, but they're an equal number, particularly what I call the old bulls, the folks that have been there a long, long time. They really don't want to do it. So at least right now, we don't have the votes to end the filibuster.
Senator, I've got about a minute and a half left. Talk to our ag producers, who I know you've been visiting with. What level of commitment can you give to them with in regard to a farm bill and everything else that we're going to be seeing in the next few years?
Well, I've worked hard in the Senate to be a champion for farmers and ranchers, for agriculture in the state of Texas. I was incredibly honored, actually, just this week to receive the formal endorsement of the Texas Farm Bureau, because I've worked hand in hand with them, whether it is in working with the administration to end the Waters of the United States rule, which was tremendously harmful to farmers and ranchers, or as part of the tax bill, working to double the exemptions from the death tax, which is incredibly harmful to farmers and ranchers, and in doubling that exemption puts a lot of Texas farms and ranchers out of the reach of the death tax, or working as part of disaster relief to include several $1 billion of relief for agriculture that was harmed in Hurricane Harvey, and in particular for cotton, to include the cottonseed fix to allow cotton to be treated fairly. And so I'm going to continue fighting for Texas farmers, and I'm proud to have the support of the Texas Farm Bureau. U.S.
Senator Ted Cruz, as always, sir, we appreciate having you on. You're invited any day, anytime, and we look forward to visiting with you as the campaign continues.
Thank you, my friend. God bless, and come to tedcruz.org, tedcruz.org.
That sounds great. Thank you, Senator.